Once broken, forged anew.
Did you want waffles? They charged me $150 to pull my teeth, y'all.
Good morning, and welcome to Warlocks Waffles, a show where Junie doesn't know what a lamp is. We're here this morning. Welcome to the show. It's y'all. Sometimes we get into like the pre-show call, and I'm like, oh, the energy's gonna be weird today, huh? And today is one of those days. I'm very excited. We also have special guest on the show today, sweet Rosie B, our very, very favorite D&D mom. Rosie, when I put out a tweet, I think last week, whenever I went to the Ren Fair, I had put out a tweet like showing my costume, and you retweeted it, and you were like, "That's my D&D son," and it broke me. I laughed so hard. It's like it's now such established lore for the three of us.
Oh yeah.
And for anyone else, it's just such a weird, like, I don't get it. I don't understand why is this a thing?
No, but it totally is. It is an established thing.
It is the established canon lore of the three of us is that we are your adopted children, and Junie and I are adopted brothers. So yeah. Welcome to the stream, y'all. It is good to be back. I am so excited to talk this morning because we have some fun stuff. But before we get into that, Junie, Rosie, how's your weekends?
Ooh.
I got a pie thrown in my face. I've been meaning to tell y'all like for 3 days. I got a pie thrown in my face.
Like a physical pie?
Like a pie, yeah. Like yeah, it was for the few that don't know, whatever, we're having a baby, and then she wanted to do a gender reveal and then looked at the gender so she knew, and it was an accident, and then nobody else knew, and then she was like, I don't know what to do, and then she was like, give me ideas, stop just like shitting on my ideas and give me an idea. And I was like, I don't know, and I started rapid firing them, and one of them was, I don't know, you could just like take a pie and fill it with blue or pink yogurt and then just cover it with whipped cream and then throw it at my face. And then that's the one she latched onto.
Yep.
So
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what happened. She threw a pie on my face, and I'm having a boy.
Oh, congrats.
So, yeah, through
That's
goggles,
awesome,
I
man.
saw blue. I was like, what is happening? And there was just graham cracker crust and whipped cream everywhere. And
were you able to see the color of it? Well,
I saw
once it
white.
was,
I had goggles, and it was mostly white, but I saw streaks of blue. Everybody else saw more blue than me.
right.
So it's just a video of me with like clearly my vision is obscured, and me going, "Is it a girl? Is it a girl?" Like, But yeah, so that was
That's very
fun.
cool.
Don't get pied in the face. Don't volunteer for it. Anybody ever don't. And make sure you have a poncho and goggles, because if I did it, I would be even worse.
Oh my
Rosie,
gosh.
pies in the face? No?
No,
Pies in
I'm
the face?
not nearly as exciting. I was in a wander home session where my bard ate a bowl of coconut shrimp for breakfast, turned into a bird,
Nice.
and then magically rewrote the story / weave of an area just on a whim.
Okay,
Was-
there's a few
So
things.
Yeah.
There's a few things that kick the shit out of my pie story, right? One, coconut shrimp for breakfast.
yeah,
Now,
like a
I don't know
bowl of
why
it.
I'm okay. Okay, you see, now you're making it weirder because I'm like with a spoon and milk, or like
No. Just
'cause
No,
at a
my
food
dumbass
was
truck.
like-
it's like-
yeah.
Rosie, what you have to understand is that Junie only knows about cereal. That's the only breakfast food he knows of. So
fuck is it?
we're
No,
on
it
it.
was,
We're on a show called
yeah.
Warlocks and Waffles. Junie can't fathom any breakfast food that wouldn't be served in a bowl
Beyond
with
that.
milk.
I assume that it's some magical fantasy bullshit.
It was some magical fantasy bullshit. It was we're in a town that's on like a wharf, like there's oceans and stuff, and my character was like, what is good? And everyone's like, oh yeah, go try the coconut shrimp. I'm like, okay, it's 8 a.m, let's go. That sounds right.
The local
Um,
fantasy Denny's. And
Local fantasy Denny's.
and
I think it was
Oh,
called
man.
Lily's. But it was that was a hoot and a half. And then yesterday, my partner's company rented out the local theme park, so we got to go do that, and
Nice.
that was really fun.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we did that for like
yeah, you kicked
2
the shit
hours.
out of this pie situation.
No,
like,
no.
Like no, yeah, good news, yeah, that's what. But like, I mean, yours, you had coconut shrimp at a theme park.
Well, my
Right.
character had coconut shrimp. I did not have coconut shrimp, for which I'm very sad because coconut shrimp is delicious.
Coconut shrimp is
Um,
very good.
Yes, it
I'm
is.
trying to think if I've ever had coconut shrimp, and I
Mm.
don't know if I have.
But
Today's
yeah,
a
that was
fucking
my-
morning, man.
It's a
Hunter, what about you? What the fuck did you do, man? What the fuck did you do?
Yeah, Hunter, how was your weekend? God.
Well, I went to the moon, and high five the president. I don't know.
Oh man, I did fuck all this weekend. Yeah,
My
Grayson,
dog started talking English. It was normal shit.
Grace and I are prepping for we've got vacation coming up, so we've been like prepping for that. Went out to like see if we could find any like clothes and stuff for the trip. Went to the mall. We went to we went to Kohl's to find clothes, and I couldn't find anything, so I went to the toy aisle and found Legos, and went and found just a bunch of the D&D minifigure blind boxes, and compiled all of them into a box and went through those when I got home last night. I feel very very proud of the fact that I found the vast majority of them in one go. I found all but one of the minifigures and only got one duplicate, so I feel pretty good about that.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Other than that, uneventful weekend. Didn't do much. We were supposed to Friday night. We were supposed to go see Hans Zimmer, in concert. Like, and it was like a couple hours before we were supposed to leave to go see him, and they canceled the show. And so that was very disappointing. A bad start to the weekend.
You know what? It didn't even finish. I still don't know if that was a bit. Like, you know,
Not-
like it was
not a
we're gonna
bit.
go see Hans Zimmer, have dinner with him, and then he canceled on us. I was just
No,
like,
we were. He was supposed to.
Close
He was gonna
family
do
friend Hans
a.
Zimmer.
close family friend Hans Zimmer.
He was gonna do a show
So I
down
hit
in
up John Williams
Baltimore.
afterwards, and I was like, "Hey, Hans canceled. What
You up?
WYD? You up? Like, what's going on?"
But yeah, it was disappointing. It would have been
I'm
would have been a very very cool show because they play like scenes from the movie and have the live orchestra playing the music for it. So I was very much looking forward to it. But It is what it is. Anyway, we are a TTRPG morning show. Which, if you've made it this far into the episode and didn't know that already, like, you clearly haven't been paying attention. Um, we talk about all sorts of TTRPG stuff on this channel. And today I'm very excited because I've been doing some world building. I have new campaign stuff coming up that I'm very excited about, but I've been working on a new like setting with like a bunch of new stuff for it. And as I was like prepping stuff, one of the things that I was kind of toying with was what if there are like different magic sources, there are these different like magic infused bloodlines, like that sort of stuff. And then as I was toying with that the other day, I was thinking, okay, what if the sun and the moon and like what you are born under, that sort of like astrological sort of magic, uh sort of infuses into you and dictates where those bloodlines are manifesting, what sort of magic sources you have access to and stuff like that. Which I thought was a fun way to do things. There are sort of four or five different magic sources that I have kind of distilled. And so I wanted to just kind of run through these with y'all, and kind of work out some mechanics and some ideas for how things would go if this sort of magic system was in place. I essentially have four different like magic sources, these sources of the arcane outside of like material magic. So material magic I would consider like artistry or like alchemy, right? Like it's this I'm sitting down to like figure out the science behind this magic. Outside of those, the four that I've kind of distilled are primal, which would consist of things like the magic of dragons, the magic of like the fae, the sort of elemental magic, stuff like that, like those primordial ancient magics. Then there's astral, which is otherworldly. It is from some great beyond or something like that. Also things like dream magic and rune magic, and like I also see like the astral magics being like somebody who is deciphering like how to do things. So like a little bit of that alchemical and artistry as well. Then you have umbral magic, which is the darker magics of like blood magic, fiendish magic, like shadow magic, that sort of things. And then ethereal magic, which is the light magic of like angelic and spirits and the sort of like divine energies. So you have kind of these four umbrella categories, and then all of those categories have things within them of, okay, well, this could be a primal magic, this could be a ethereal magic. If it's a like the angelic host, that's very easy to go, oh, that's ethereal. If it's a demon, it's very easy to go, oh, that's umbral. Then you get into a little bit more like weird, like, okay, what is a hag's magic? Is that an umbral magic because it's kind of dark, or is it primal magic because it's fey? And so there can be that sort of like overlap. But I wanted to talk with y'all about sort of this idea of the moon and the sun being partially tied to this. In my game world, there are multiple suns, there are multiple moons, so we can play with kind of an overlap of things as well. Of like, okay, well, if these specific conditions are met, it could lead to this sort of thing. The one that I thought of right off the bat was that like this is gonna be a world that is newly rich in magic. So like those primal like ancient magics and stuff are very rich and very potent here. The In a traditional setting where you would find like, oh, there are vampires and there are werewolves and there are dragons in the Forgotten Realms, but like they're kind of rare things. They're much more prevalent in a world where like that magic is rich and everywhere. So for example, you could have a bloodline that is very tied to like lycanthropes, and tie those to the moon of like, okay, if all of the moons are like full moons and you are born under like all full moons, you could have a situation where you're gonna have that sort of like manifestation of the beast in your bloodline, and it leads to things like a shifter, or even like if you want to go full into it, you could go like a tabaxi or something like that. You could also go with a just magic sort of tied to that sort of bestial nature, where you can do like the a savage attack and stuff like that. So that's kind of the wide umbrella of what I've kind of been playing around with in here. Is there anything that jumps out to y'all like right off the bat that you kind of think sticks out?
I definitely think of like umbrellas,
Hmm.
and how like what you said, like where does a hag's magic fall?
Yeah.
Because I think of when you said shadow, like you
Yeah.
said umbral and then shadow magic, I also thought of like what about in the beginning there was also shadow and there's like a primal shadow magic type too. So it's
Oh,
almost like
interesting.
it's almost like there's an
Hmm.
umbrella category, and then like on the fringe of it, if it meets something else, that's where you get those specific type of like, it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
divination, but mine's a dream divination. It's
Mhm.
normally
Yeah.
this is here, but I'm under this. Like when I pictured like the since it's like so many stars, like moon, like the moon and sun, and then like the actual plane, I almost imagined it like an astronaut's training spinning thing. I just googled it. It's an aerotrim,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
if it's like one ring's turning one way, however it's turning in any direction, another one the other, and then and then there's so many Rubik's cube combinations.
Mhm.
You were born under, and like that's how it aligned, and that's how you got you, and that could be that person's combination of things. So you could like almost like literally roll the dice literally and go,
Yeah.
this is what this person's gonna be.
It reminds me of like a like the if you've ever done like the chroma, like click, choose a specific color on the like
Hmm.
wide thing, where it's like,
Yeah,
okay, this is the intersection of like green and blue, this is the
yeah.
intersection of like purple and pink, and so there's that, if it's that kind of weave of like
Hmm.
all of those things have overlap with each other, of like this is very much a ethereal and primal. This is very like a demon is sort of that like umbral and ethereal almost, if you want to
Mhm.
go with like
Hmm.
sort of a fallen angels vibe, of like they were once ethereal but are like corrupted. Like there, you could absolutely play with that sort of overlap.
And if you
That
do it like that, you could have ones that are gonna be firmly in there, whatever
mhm,
the thing is,
yeah.
and then
Right.
ones that are like, oh, they're farther away from the center. They're farther away. They're closer to this. You could tell that they're influenced or tainted or
Mhm,
like spiced with whatever else.
right, because you could go with like I'm not a huge like astrology person. It's not something that I've ever like dug into all that extensively, but I know there's the like your this with this rising, right? Like you're
Hmm.
like that whole thing. Like you could very much play with, okay, well if you're born at night under this moon, but like this is like this sun is rising for your first day or something like that, like you could play with that sort of energy. um Junie, what you kind of touched on also kind of plays into this thing that I've been kind of toying with, is that there can be in my notes I have, there's like the magic sources, and there's also bloodlines. So there's the like this magic source that you pull your magic from this source, where there's not like a school of wizards who is sitting out and looking at the arcane and like figuring out how to like do it that way. You pull your magic from a source. If you are able to cast magic, it is because you have access to a arcane source. And so there are these magic sources, the like primal, astral, umbral, ethereal. There's also bloodlines of like you could be from a bloodline that has been infused with the element of fire, or you could be from a bloodline that has a rich like celestial impact or fey or stuff like that. And so what you were kind of touching on could easily be sort of this overlap of like a like your bloodline dictates something, but also like the stars you're born under impact your magic source. And so there is this sort of juxtaposition and dance that those two do together. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Now, are some of these magics like opposed to each other? So is ethereal opposed to umbral? Is astral opposed to primal? Or do they sort of exist more ambiguously than that?
It's a good question. The way I envision them is like I think primal and astral are kind of opposites of each other, because
Right.
like primal is very much of this world, locked in like
Grounded.
ancient
Yeah.
magics of the world. And then astral is like otherworldly, or like trying to figure out the like the mysteries of the world.
Mhm.
And so with like primal, you've got like dragons and giants and fae and like these ancient magics. And in astral, it'd be like all of those arcanes of like lost and forbidden magics, and like alchemy of like let me figure out how to distill this into this, and it's more science than it is magic. And then umbral and ethereal I see as kind of the same, like the also sort of opposites of like one is very divine. I don't even want to say divine, because you could have like divine umbral magic if it's like a dark god.
Yeah.
It's this like I don't good and evil. It's the like the dark and the light. And so they also would be kind of this opposite, that like there's not going to be a ethereal and umbral magic. But you could have creatures that were ethereal that became umbral or redeemed the other way. But like the source itself, I don't see as having a lot of crossover. But
Right.
you could have a primal umbral, you could have a primal ethereal, you could have like ethereal astral. Like those can cross. I feel like there's those two that are kind of like the opposite. It's almost like an XY.
Everybody's doing this.
That's exactly where my brain was going.
It's like an
quadrants.
XY of like
Yeah.
you've got ethereal and umbral, and then primal and astral.
Primal and astral, yeah.
Yeah, if you do it like you set the categories. I was also thinking of like almost like a weight situation too, because if you set like where it's just like these are the bases, these are the modifiers, and then even they can have like a a pull type of thing, because then if it's like this one pulls it more this way, then you're getting into this territory, and that's where these things kind of hang out. So if it's like on quadrants or on like a spinning board, I was thinking of like a sphere, but even if you just do like spinning tiles, whatever's going to line up, certain things can or can't line up, but it'll be like, well, yeah, these are always going to be on the opposite sides, but then this one is complementary to this one. And so it's like you have a things like, yeah, part of me is at war with myself and the other half loves it, and then there's a third part that's just here to party. So it's just like they're just like being pulled in all the directions. It's like I was born on a Thursday, you know what I mean? Like it's just
oh,
that's
those
the thing too.
Thursdays.
As I say, does it change by time? Is it literally like you could have so many different factors
Yeah.
with what's
You absolutely
changing it.
could.
If it's time, if it's like literally like the spin of the world, or is it like, you
Mhm.
know, ley lines are just shifting, so it's just like, oh, we don't have to move, it's like it's coming to us no matter what type of thing. So it's like, what's what's changing it, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Could two people be born on the same day of the year, but they're gonna be completely different because they were in a different continent, like, you know what I
Right.
Or
mean?
their
Like, is that,
lineages were different.
yeah, like,
Mhm.
because that's another thing. So that's another like factor that you
Mhm.
have in there. Because I almost think that you could have like in that wheel of like factor wheels, like, oh yeah, this one's not gonna do anything to anything. So if you
Right.
put like those types of things on there, it's just like, nope, that, don't worry, that one's not gonna do anything. So if you think of like 3 or 4 modifiers, it's not everybody's gonna have 3 or 4 things affecting
Right.
what their final thing's gonna be, but that's how like you're grouping them type of thing.
Hmm.
They need to be grouped. And so what's the change? Is it location and time? Is it like location, time, and like what changes, you know?
Season, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
season. Yeah.
Well, I would anticipate it being and like this gets into the weird like shape of the planet and how
Mhm.
the solar bodies move and stuff. But it I would anticipate it being like there are the different suns, there are the different moons, and so like depending on the season and where you're located, like those are going to be different. So if you are like in the like very hot area where like the suns are more prominent, you're gonna find more people who are in tune with that sort of like fire and like the dragon blood and like stuff like that. Whereas if you are far up north and it's like cold and icy and like there's not a lot of sun there, you're gonna find people who are more in tune with that like ice and nature and that sort of thing. I would picture uh, the suns and the moons kind of uh, playing different roles. So to me, uh, I think the suns as being, in my mind, it'd be like sun and moon both play a role in like one of these. So like the suns are the like uh primal and ethereal, and the moons are the like astral and umbral, or like something like that, of kind of having this thing that plays out between them. um yeah.
Oh, you could also, if you do define like these are more sun and these are more moon, things like that. What if it's they're both gonna affect you,
Right.
but the weight is different of
Mhm.
depending on whatever the like the factors of
Yeah.
location or something like that. So that's gonna pull the moon one, like your primary base bottom of the pyramid is now one of the sun signs or one of the
Yeah.
sun thingies, and then we do the moon and it's like weighted that way. Just to further complicate it, I'm just imagining how cultures are gonna completely
Well,
interpret this differently, because I imagine
yeah.
already one person going to like, the moment you are born, you are the center of the universe, and whatever star is directly above you, that is your sign. And then other people are
Well,
like, that's fucking stupid. Like, there's a lot of people born at the same time. They can't all be the center of the universe. It's
right.
like, no, they are the center of the universe.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just like
You're the
that
center of
person,
your
like, there's
own
a religion.
universe.
There's like a
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
like religion based off of that.
Well, and I mean we could get deep into some of the world building that I've been doing on my end, but in this world, like the like there aren't really wizards in this world because
Mhm.
there's not people who are like uh studying and bending like all the arcane to their will. Like it's very much a sort of natural process for a lot of people. So there are like sorcerers and warlocks and druids and clerics, but there aren't wizards. There's and then the other part of it is that there are like the divine are very like open to interpretation. Like there's not a temple of this god, and if you go to this other part of like the continent, you're going to find another temple of that god. Like there are the same sort of powers would be worshipped very differently, and some areas would worship things that like nowhere else is going to worship. So if you have this sort of astral, like the sun and the moon, like most ancient cultures are going to have some sort of like divinity attributed to sun, moon. Like there is this sort of like, that is a very tangible otherworldly thing. So if you are building out sort of this more like ancient world of like, it's not a world that has had thousands and thousands of years to kind of like study the divine, you can play with some of that more localized and personalized religious followings and stuff like that, of like, yeah, this culture is very much like that one sun is the head sun, like that one moon is the lead moon, and so like those two are the most important, whereas over here they're going to be like, yeah, only the moons are the ones that are like super important to us. Like the suns don't really mean anything to like your blood, and they're interpreting it differently. But
They have their own tier rankings at each location.
Right.
So each
This is
each
an
region you
S
rank.
tier moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This sun, smash. This moon, pass. To speak a language that Junie will understand.
I laughed earlier because you said this world doesn't have wizards, and I almost blurted out, they have Rizzlers. And I was like,
Judy.
I was just like
But like to that point, like that is very funny. But like to that point, you still have people that are learning those magics that aren't related. So you have alchemists, you have artificers. Where do they fall in there? Are those people that don't have the
I feel like
lineages?
I feel like in my mind, I probably wouldn't allow artificer in this new setting, just because like artificer is innately going to be like pushing into a bit more modern tech with magic, and
You're not quite
I
there
want
yet,
this to be much more like ancient like early civilization for this this setting, and so I probably wouldn't allow artificer. I do think alchemist is an interesting one. And I do have like in my notes, I have like the different magic sources. I do have one additional magic source that I have on here, which is witchcraft, that I think is a very specific type and would like be kind of its own category. I don't think it's natural, like a like you are born under the signs of witchcraft. Like I think it's something that somebody would like study and pursue. But I see the witchcraft being kind of more of that, like, okay, we're like, we know that like Tale of Newton, Eye of Spider, like is gonna make this this thing, and like kind of that alchemical potions and like that sort of thing. Kind of, I love the idea of a culture that I think it was Wheel of Time that has like the witches are like the like political advisors, and like they do a lot of that stuff because they have this magic that like other people don't have. And I love the concept of there being this sort of like covens of witches that are kind of directing political things, and like if you are a small town, you are very lucky if there is like a witch in that lives in your town, because they will know like how to put together an ointment and like set a limb and stuff like that. So I've kind of toyed with that. I think alchemy is very much in that sort of like astral magic. It's the let me look at the stars and let me study and let me like try and figure this out, and kind of figure out, okay, lots of trial and error. You got bit by a snake. Like Tabasco didn't do anything. Sticking a jalapeno up your nose did not help. Like microdosing LSD doesn't seem to be assisting you in this matter.
This time.
This time.
This time.
Yeah. But like that, we tried it under the moon. Maybe if we microdosed LSD under the sun, it would have different effects.
So to that point, it's more of the passed down knowledge rather than passed down bloodline.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I was gonna say if there's any like amorphous, like the more fluid signs, because alchemy has this like almost transformative, like like turning like lead into gold type of situation. Like anything that is like those that are like shadow, water, and this like smoke sign, whatever, like the ones that they're like, oh, those are like hard to grasp, changeable type of signs. Those people have more of a knack for it, and they don't just get it or anything like that, because it's like you said, passed down knowledge makes most sense, but it's almost like they're set up for success because they're go with the flowy type of, like, people have an easier time wrapping their head around type of thing.
Yeah, I like that.
And this isn't the hot witches we did that one time, right? This isn't like that one time we made the whole, like, remember we made a whole world and it was like hot witches? You remember this?
I don't remember this.
You remember, don't you bastard? You know what I'm talking about. We did a thing and it was like whether or not it was like hags and like, oh God, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah. No, I do. I remember.
And then I was like, what if the witches were always hot? And then that was like, that created the stereotype of like, are they a witch? And that's how people would like to like, oh, are you a witch? And it's like, oh, I'm just attracted. But then it would like,
talk
if
about
you see
that,
too many hot people together at one time, like too hot to handle level, you're like, that's a coven of witches.
That's a
They're
coven.
obviously doing something because they're all too fucking hot.
Yeah.
Like I don't make me crazy.
No, you are
crazy.
You are absolutely correct. We did do an episode on that. I think that's where my my thought process on this kind of started.
Hot witches, and then it got into
Then just went from there.
No, I was gaslit, so I was just like, shit, I outed myself. I don't know what the fuck is going on. No one remembers this.
No, we've got 3 people here that have the memory spans of a goldfish. So.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I remembered it once you started talking about
witches. I don't understand.
Yeah. No, I do remember that.
I just remember abs and wide brim hats. You don't remember? You don't remember?
It's I like the concept of there being sort of this, like, if you are like studying and trying to like perfect your magic, that is one thing, but there is also this sort of innate aptitude. Like I've always liked the trope of the like somebody who, like, a mysterious stranger shows up at your door when you're like young and is like, you bear the mark of the serpent, you are chosen by the great worms, like
and you're really hot.
And also 12.
No judgments, just not trying to be weird about it, just objectively.
Just an objective statement.
I'm not weird.
I don't, like, you would be hot to other 12-year-olds.
Mom!
Pardon me, madam, I was just telling your son that he's hot.
Just a Gandalf type standing on your door, like... I'm
fully aware that my son's hot. Why? Yes.
There's... We got to move away from this bit.
We really do. Sorry.
No, I love the concept of like that sort of, you are chosen. There's a manifestation of that, like, magic.
I'm dropping the bit.
Destined for things.
Like there is that sort of innate aptitude, kind of like like X-Men, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
Hot.
you entered like this phase of your life, or like there is an intense moment of adrenaline or something like that that like activates this thing for you, and you're like, oh, I I was born under the stars, and like I have elemental energies or something like that. Um, I like that sort of trope, and I think it's fun to kind of play with. Y'all are children.
I had to mute myself because I kept saying hot. Just kept saying hot.
Oh man.
And I kept looking at Judy, and that gave me the giggles. Apologies.
I'm not sorry. He knows what I
Ugh.
do.
I know what I'm getting into when I get on the call with
Mm.
Judy.
No, I do think that's super interesting. The sort of chosen aspect of it, the not even mutation, not like
Yeah.
not in that way X-Men, but just oh, you have this within you.
Yeah.
So use it.
Yeah.
Find a way to utilize it. I think that is very interesting and is a trope that we see in a lot of magic systems.
Yeah.
And a lot of like stories of that type.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you have a like this is a very small town. You are born in a very small town, and then you have like an affinity for like like ethereal magic. Cool.
Mhm.
You're gonna very quickly be put into like there is one priest in town, like he's gonna wanna like have you by his side training.
Right.
Like you are born in a small town, and you all of a sudden start manifesting like uh, uh umbral magic
Shadows,
tendencies,
yeah.
and like the shadows are whispering to you and stuff like that. Like you're gonna get run out of town pretty quick. Like it
Mhm.
creates this sort
Mhm.
of dichotomy of not necessarily a magic being like good or bad, but in a
Yeah.
world where it's not fully understood. That's
Correct.
that's such a fun mechanic to play with. And I feel like in the like Forgotten Realms, right? Like magic is in everything. Like
Mhm.
everything is magical. There's like wizards in every city. Like there even the small towns, if you're like, I have crazy unimaginable power, they're like, oh, you're a wizard. Like I understand
Yeah.
what you're doing. Like, yeah, we have like one of the people that was born here also went off to the big city to become a wizard. Like there is no like craziness to that magic. There's no like people understand what it is. Like the average
It's so
commoner
commonplace.
doesn't
Yeah.
understand like how wish works, but like
Yeah.
they know a powerful wizard could cast it. Like
Mhm.
they even in that small backwoods town, you've heard of the spells. Like you know what that magic is. You
Mhm.
may never encounter it, but like you have heard of it. Whereas
Right.
in a setting where that magic is not really studied, like there's not these wizard colleges and stuff like that, it is a very personal connection to magic. And so if you meet somebody who has one of these magical like giftings, it's strange and unusual, and it could be anything, because this person's relationship to that magic is going to be very different than any other person's relationship to
Mhm.
that same magic source. Which I find very compelling from a narrative perspective, to be able to kind of figure out what that looks like for individual characters.
I think that you should have, whether or not it's the moon or like some of the one factor is almost like the strength indicator of
Mm,
how like close you are to whatever the thing is, because I think it would be very fun to go, this is the magical boon or benefit of this combination of things, and this is the non-magical benefit. Because what if like you're whatever the situation is, and wind is like a primary situation, right? And it could be like, oh, whenever Jimmy throws the ball, it feels like the wind blows faster, and that's him
Mm-hmm.
understanding that. But what if it's just they have that blessing and their reflexes are just faster? There's no magic, because we got to think about, not everybody's going to be, unless you're saying everybody has magic,
Right.
period.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some people that don't have an aptitude or don't have it, but there's gonna be the person that, like, it's just like, oh yeah, I was born under this moon, and oh boy, can I just trees. I can do trees. I can climb trees. I can chop
Yeah.
them down. I just
Mhm.
have a thing for trees. I can't do anything magical with trees, but oh
Right.
boy, can I weave a basket, make a bow,
Yeah.
whatever it is, they have that thing. So it's like,
Yes.
but if they're born where there was that slider, they're a druid now type of
Yeah.
situation.
I
And
love
imagine
that.
the person that's like, they're the opposite, where it's like, my dad was a lumberjack, so this didn't really help. But when I'm at home, I have fire powers, so I can like heat up the bath. So it didn't
Yeah.
really come into play at home, but I can do this, and it's like, yeah, this doesn't help me. They have to think creatively how to use it when they're adventuring or when they grow up, or
Yeah.
but they didn't
Mhm.
have anybody to teach them, because everybody's still spread out. There's nobody to teach me how to whatever. I just knew
Yeah.
I had to not burn everything down.
Yeah. Well, and I
Mhm.
love this concept of the like, if everybody has something, right? Like
Something, yeah.
everybody's born under something. It would be like unusual for somebody to be like nothing. Um but I do like the concept of there also being people who like have no affinity, like there is no connection, kind of like
Mhm.
untouched by that magical gifting, like the just depending on where they were born, what they were born under, that sort of thing.
Maybe
um
those are your witches then.
oh, that's interesting, that you can only become a witch if you are like not
The nothing, yeah.
untouched. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Then
um
you're like, and I hate using like blood quantum things, but then you're like more pure. You're untouched
mhm.
by other things,
Yeah,
so you can pursue that without influence.
There's
because
also, yeah,
because
there's
your
also
blood
the
is not
collaborative aspect
naturally
of it.
leaning towards one thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It
And with
opens
yeah.
your capabilities. That's very
And with
interesting.
covens, like, the whole thing is like, a person can just like, I can just set this fire. It's just like, well, I don't have that. Me and Dave don't have that. But if we like study this enough and we both put together whatever energy or something we can muster, we
Hmm.
can make that fire. And there's
Mhm.
that collaborative aspect of like
Mhm.
a witch can do the thing. They're just pulling from other stuff in the way
Yeah,
other
From a
people just pull
different
from
way.
themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think something, Junie, you kind of touched on, of like, I can heat this bath. I can like climb a tree. I think this, in a world where you have like these natural affinities, I think having, even if you have a very weak affinity, being able to go, this is where my affinity lies, and here's how it's kind of manifested in like a very very faint mutation, right? Of like I I'm very in tune with like storms.
Mhm.
And so it's not that I have any sort of like lightning powers. I just know if a storm is coming. Like
Yeah.
I feel it in my bones, like I can smell it on the air, like I know if a storm is coming, and sometimes it's days away. But like I smell that storm brewing. Or like you're very in tune with like the rock and the ore and metals and stuff like that, and it just makes you a slightly better blacksmith. Like you're kind of, you know how to work it, you're able to kind of sense where that, like where it wants to be hit to kind of make the thing. Like, and you could have like somebody with that same gifting who is a sculptor, who is able to like figure out where to kind of like chisel away the block of marble, because they can sense the stone and how it will kind of break. I like that sort of very personalized, very like, people could have the same gifting and it'll be remarkably different between
Mhm.
people, even if it's next to nothing. Like you have almost no connection here, but you do have some sort of connection. So how does that manifest? I like that a lot.
if you make it like very broad, or at least so the people believe it and see it to be, even if you're like, oh yeah, here's the factors and this is how many combinations, and for people they're not gonna know like all that, and for them if it just feels so vast,
Hmm.
then for them it'll be like there's the understanding of like, yeah, some people, it'll be like real life, some people are born with, they can do this XYZ type of thing, and other people have to find what they're good at.
Hmm.
And if you make it in a world where it's just like there's just so many possibilities, so many things, some people just don't find the thing that they're like, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm a blacksmith, but like I'm not supernaturally good. If I'm supernaturally good at something where I was given, like, turns out that guy could have hard boiled an egg in an instant, but he never needed to,
Yeah.
so he never found that talent.
Some
You know
people
what I mean?
just
So it's like
never figure
some
out
people might,
what that is.
yeah, some people might not find out the special sauce that their unique circumstances of birth would have given them.
Yeah.
I mean, that person, like, oh, they grew up in flatland, but oh boy, you are technically a really good mountain climber if you were ever near a mountain.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're not near a mountain at
There's
the
no
moment.
mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have like a crazy high jump.
Right.
And it's like some people
Yeah.
might not find it, and it makes it so it doesn't feel like uh I'm cursed. I'm not gifted like so and so. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of people are going to try to find themselves, and if they don't, there's enough people or enough options where something that's just like, oh, I'm just really good at skip roping. People might think that things they're just regular good at are their thing.
Yeah.
So you don't create this like, because there's this like, in a lot of anime, there's always this like ranking systems, and then it's like so and so was born with F rank magic, and then they're like
Yeah.
ostracized.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
So you
There are no
create
mega
the
level mutant.
correct, and then
Yeah.
you're creating the catalyst for like, uh-oh, all the people born with oh, I can just like, I can sharpen pencils by looking at it. Like all the ones that are deemed weak, are they lower class? Are they like given shittier
Then you
jobs?
get into
And
societal stuff. Yeah.
Right.
correct. And then it kind of becomes a slippery slope. But if it's just there's so many things, and people can be good at other it's like, oh yeah, I trained and now I'm faster type of
Yeah.
thing. People can still be good at things, but
Right.
the guy that's born under the wind thing with the jackal sign, and then he's also part dragon spirit, he's gonna be
Yeah.
like, that guy's faster.
Yeah.
You can
Because
have natural
that's the unique
proclivities, but there's also trained like
correct.
proficiencies
Yeah.
that you
So it's
can
one of those
have.
things where like
Mhm.
the attitudes towards it or the understanding,
Mhm.
how much do people know, you can make it like, oh yeah, no, there isn't like crazy hardcore discrimination on the fact that it's just like, yeah, this person was born under
Right.
XYZ sign, so we don't talk to them for reasons. It's like,
Mhm.
Well, and if you have I think it opens it up to players very nicely of like, okay,
Mhm.
you're playing in this setting. Like this is kind of the stuff your character is born under. Like how does that manifest? It opens up the player to be like, I don't know. Like I don't know
Mhm.
what that is. Like I just feel like I'm normal maybe. And it's like, okay, well, like I will write this down and we'll figure it out at some point. Like at some point, this will manifest. Maybe it's like I feel like that's a very like astral thing too, of like trying to figure out like looking at where the suns and the moons and like all of this stuff was at the time of like their birth, to
Mhm.
figure out, okay, well, this is kind of where your proclivity would be, and figuring out what that looks like. There's you could also play into the like the witches of being like, okay, maybe the witches, one of the things that they're very good at is determining what your gifting might be, of like maybe there are like traveling groups of them that like go to the small towns to like see, okay, what is the like the gifting of all the children that were born in the
Career
last year.
aptitude.
Yeah, yeah. And like, oh, this child would be a fantastic witch.
Mhm.
And then like that's a fantastic opportunity for that child.
Yeah, being like born in a one where it's like you're neutral all across the board or like almost zero across the board doesn't mean I'm screwed. It
Right.
means I could take up the witch one where it's like
Yeah.
neutral good, and like that might be a good way to like every circle, every religion, whatever has a manner to determine like whatever it is, but
Mhm.
they're always going to be slightly biased because they're
Right.
always tinged. They always have that like scale that's tipped in the favor of whatever the thing is. But if you're neutral, that's true zero type of thing.
Mhm.
Like you're gonna get every
Mhm.
every nuance of like what's happening.
Yeah, like somebody who is born under like the umbral moon or whatever is still able to cast other things. Their natural tendency would just always drift towards like umbral. And like
Mhm.
if you're trying to do umbral stuff, umbral is going to be easier for you as opposed to a somebody who is trying to use like umbral magic and is like primal casters. Like you'll have an easier time with umbral than they would. I think that I think it's fun to kind of have those opposing energies so that you have a system in place for like everybody is going to be special. Like everybody is special in some way, and it's you figuring out like what
Mhm.
that looks like. But then you also have to like Syndrome, the villain in The Incredibles, has the line where he's like, "When everybody's super, nobody is," and it's like, yeah, like there's also that of like, okay, if everybody has something, then like, does that mean that nobody is special? Uh, kind of. But if you make it very unique to each individual person of like it is the relationship you have with that gifting and the way it manifests in you, it is still
Mhm.
unique to you. Like there is nobody who has exactly the same as you. Like there are probably people who have very similar, like there's probably multiple people who are blessed by the wind and are able to run very fast, but that could manifest slightly different for each person, and the chances of finding two people in like the same area who have the same gifting is very, very limited.
Ooh, twins. That could be something interesting to
Oh
Oh
play with.
yeah.
yeah, twins, but like okay, there's like twins, they're born under the same sky, but they're born like
The mom was on
like
state lines and like her like it's just you know what I mean? Hold on, like,
well,
that's funny.
even if you go with like
The clock struck midnight just as one of them was born, and then it's like
Mhm.
up the sun rose after so and so
yeah,
was
like
born.
you're technically in the like the rising sun of this day, not the setting sun of this one.
Yeah.
Or like even if it's on the same day and it's just like an hour apart, things are going to be in
Oh,
different
poor
positions
mama.
in the sky. Even a few minutes, like it
Mhm.
will have moved slightly. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
a slightly different sky than
This kid,
the
never mind. Nothing, nothing. Uh,
Mhm.
but like
I was gonna say what we all thought what our signs would be, but then I was like, oh no, we're all hot. We're all clearly witches. We were all born with
well, I mean,
neutral signs.
imagine like an eclipse, right? Like an eclipse only lasts for
Mhm.
a very short period of time.
Oh
Mhm.
So, like,
gosh.
if you have twins and they are born during like the eclipse of one of the like moons or something like that, by the time the second one is born, it won't be like the same phase of that eclipse.
Right.
So those could be very different giftings depending
I don't know
on
what the
what that
shape of your
looks like.
world is. I don't know what the shape of the world is and stuff like that. But then imagine eclipses that are happening not where you are.
Mm,
Were you born during eclipses? Like, no, it's just like, where were you? Because there could have been an eclipse somewhere, like
Mhm.
yeah.
over there, on that other side of the world, whatever. That this was eclipsed like this, and that affected you here, type of situation.
And how
Like,
would you even know? Because
Yeah.
communication, from what I understand of the world that you have built,
Yeah.
everything is quite isolated and
Yeah.
quite like there is no way to communicate across distances like that. So
It's one of
Yeah.
those things like, as the omnipotent, like, these are the factors, this is the whatever, but like it maintains that sense of mystery of like people have approximated everything to the best of their knowledge, scholars, alchemists, whatever it is. But even then, there's like going to be things that they might just not be able to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it might be it's like, oh, I got divination magic, I know this stuff, and it's like that person's well informed. But so and so is like, I looked up and I was pretty sure it was Thursday, so this kid's gonna be super great at climbing trees.
Yeah.
Like it's just like
Just somebody like the person in your town that does all of that, like figuring out what your gifting may be, is just like was really on a bender that weekend and like got the date wrong and like looked up in the sky and the moon was behind a tree and he didn't see it and he wrote it
like,
down
really,
as like that moon wasn't visible in the night sky. Like, yeah.
It turns out my glasses were dirty. The stars were actually way to the left. You suck at math.
Just you look up and it's just a cloudy night and you're like, no moons in the sky. There's
this kid's gonna suck at math. Like it's just like, don't get him a desk job.
Yeah. This kid is destined for ADHD. Like,
that's how you get like a nerd in the forest. Like he's pushing up his glasses and he's like using trigonometry to chop trees down. It's like, how does he chop the most trees? I don't know. He doesn't know math, and he's just like, I don't know math. I just know he's calculating fucking Pythagorean theorems and shit like through instinct. That's fucking cool. That's the coolest use of Pythagorean theorem ever.
Yeah. This
I
kid,
need
that
to
what,
eat
this
and,
kid
like,
can't
lay
read.
down.
Like, what is he doing? Like, this kid can't read, and it's like, yeah, I don't read. I look at these words, like these scribbles on this page, and I hallucinate images of like words, and I just kind of interpret them, and it's like, I think you're reading.
No, I talk to paper and the paper talks back.
Isn't that how it works for you?
I talk to paper and then my hand punches the words into the paper and then the paper talks back at me through these scribbles and it hits my eyeballs and my brain understands it. I'm just fighting with paper. Yo, that kid thinks that reading is fighting with paper. Fighting with scribbles.
So a kid that was given their proclivity as being
they're
like,
just super
fighting,
smart, but they were not
but they're
raised
so smart.
Yeah, they're raised like in a tavern, but like all their signs like they were going to be a super magical scholar, but they were raised like in like just the most drunken, disorderly. Yeah, exactly. It's just like
this child will be the greatest warrior of our generation.
You still owe 35 gold for your tab. And it's just like he's like really good at math. He's keeping track of the books.
Just a scrawny, scrawny asthmatic kid who's just like,
I'm destined to save the world with my muscles.
Just like does the SpongeBob muscle where he flexes and his arm just whoop, goes down instead.
He invents tasers. He's taser punching people. Like he's just like he does all
he
things
finds very innovative ways to fight.
Yeah.
I have the punch of the blue dragon.
And it's just a taser.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I thought we weren't doing artificers.
We're not. I love this sort of
he spits
space.
whiskey, he spits alcohol on his fist, then lights that shit on fire and punches with it. Yeah, it's just like dragon punch.
It's just his hand is just gnarled scar tissue from just like repeatedly lighting himself on fire.
He's done it so many times. It's just like tough. It's just very tough.
Yeah.
So he's got to punch drunks all the time.
Yeah.
He's toughened his hand on drunks.
I love that. There's so many different ways that you could interpret the like different powers and different magic types and bloodlines and like, okay, if an elf is being born under this, what does that mean? If a dwarf is being born under this, what does that mean? Like do these interact differently with different people? Like maybe a dwarf who is born under fire signs is going to be more magma. Whereas like an elf born under it is going to be more like ash and like forest fire. Like the this sort of bloodline also infusing with the magic, and they have to kind of like bond with each other. So you could have interactions that are very like very different from person to person, because it is such a personal manifestation of those abilities. I
I
like
was
that
just
a
thinking
lot.
shadow will be if you don't have a magical affinity to it, you're a good liar. But if you are really good at it, you have good like illusion magic because
Hmm.
you can obscure reality type of thing. There's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Rosie, thank you so much for making the time to hang out this morning and chat. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, this was super
Um,
fun.
yeah, I am very much looking forward to kind of like continuing to flesh this stuff out. I have a Google sheet where I don't know if you can tell, but I have a lot of books in different like D&D settings and stuff like that. I've been going through like all of the books that I have
Right.
gotten from various like Kickstarters and stuff, and documenting in this Google sheet of like all of the different subclasses and all of the different like races and stuff like that, and like where they're from and what magic source I think they are and what bloodline that connects to, and like all of this sort of stuff. And I'm very much looking forward to kind of getting everything built out to be able to start playing in the space, because it's
It's very cool.
I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. Rosie, do you have any calls to action for this week?
Yeah.
To put you on the spot.
Panic.
Panic is number one.
Use that adrenaline. Use
Yeah.
it
Use that
to, like,
adrenaline.
motivate
Yeah.
yourself.
Use that panic energy.
Use that panic energy to go and do something productive.
Perfect. Love it.
Take some time to think on your proclivities, on the things that make you you,
Love that.
and how those make you happy. Number 3, dun, 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 dun. Find your small magic. Find the thing that
It's so
you
cute.
are good at. That just kind of is unique to you.
That's
So
great.
panic.
We'll have people accuse you
Yeah.
of being a witch. Like,
Panic.
Yeah.
Meditate and do magic.
Love that. That's so
Very
good. That's
witchy.
that's so much more introspective. I love that. Okay. We will be back next time, y'all. Until then, remember to embrace the nonsense, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.